Welcome back to another edition of Adventitious Adventures. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, welcome, and I hope that you enjoy what you're about to hear. If you're returning, thank you for continuing to support me and getting this story out there. I hope that you're enjoying the story so far, and I'm excited to continue telling it and getting through more of the meat of kind of the story that we're on. As I've always said, if you would rather read through this whole campaign yourself, it also is found as a blog where it originally came from, of our original campaign, and that is found on wordpress.com under the same name of Adventitious Adventures, so you can check that out there. It has our second campaign and soon to be our third campaign on there as well. In addition to that, we also will be, I know I've teased this before, and it just got a little out of hand. I got on vacation, things happened, but we will this week finally be having a new episode of everything with a new campaign between me and my husband that you can watch on YouTube, or you can check it out on Spotify as well. That will be up later this week, and so it's a brand new story. It's pretty cool. Kind of just a real life, we just play, and then, things happen as they will. So that is exciting, and like I said, it will be up this week. I apologize that it wasn't before. Life happens. With that, let's jump in with a recap. Last we met the party, having all managed to find their way to the tavern in Wolfwater, spent the night drinking, being a bit petty, and generally having a good time, completely ignoring the warnings they were given about what could happen under the new blood moon. After a time of hanging out and man-hating on the part of Inara and Chop, the merriment is cut short as a woman bursts into the tavern saying that horrible things are happening outside and that she is scared. Saren and Malvis seem determined to help her, which annoys Inara, and she ends up heading to bed where she is attacked by a wraith. Downstairs, the woman grows tired of the men not responding the way she wants, and they are also pulled into battle. The party is able to come out on top, but unbeknownst to them, the trouble is only beginning. The tale picks up once more in the Reconsider Tavern, now in a state of relief at the fact that the wraiths have been defeated. As the party picks themselves up, the patrons begin to come out of their hiding places, and are swift at blaming the party for the appearance of the evil that they had just fought against. After some discussion, the owners of the tavern seem to at least be alright with the party staying the night, so long as they fight against anything else that comes their way. They agree. However, Saren tells them they should stay on guard, and Malvis decides to check outside for anything else before resting. The rest of the party heads upstairs to get some sleep. After some time, Chop awakens, realizing that she can hear birds chirping. As she focuses on the sounds, she can tell that she is somewhere other than the tavern she had fallen asleep in, and eventually finds she is back in her bed in her village. Strangely, the room looks exactly as she remembers it, which seems odd, but instead of pondering on that, a commotion from outside draws her attention. Following the sound, Chop discovers her village bustling with those about their business, just as it normally is, which is strange considering her father had told her it had been burned, and the villagers enslaved. She approaches a nearby person, asking how she had gotten there, and they tell her she had been having a nightmare. Moments later, the elder of the village comes forward, and Chop asks what is going on, because nothing she has seen so far has been as she expected it to be. He passes off her concern by telling her she was drunk, before letting her know her father is waiting to see her. Before she can go very far, however, her father steps out of a tent nearby. Chop goes to him, and they embrace before she asks why she never came back from her investigation of a goblin threat, and what she has been doing since then. She tells him all of the events that have transpired, first with defeating Thurisdan, up to fighting off the wraiths in the tavern. However, the more that she describes, the more her father seems to be disappointed in her not returning. He tells her that the village needed her, and when he tells her to look out at the people, the scene seems to shift and change. Where once there was the happy bustle of the village is now a burned landscape. The voice of her father tells her they were betrayed by someone she calls a friend, and a moment later she sees the form of Saren appear, before waking, for real, back in the tavern. Saren is the next to awake, surprised at feeling a bitter cold, even from the inside the tavern. Hearing a sound of screeching from outside the room, he opens the door, looking out into the hallway. Looking around, he notices the door to the room next door is slightly open. Approaching cautiously, he finds the lifeless body of Inara lying on the ground, looking as if the life has been sucked out of her. Saren continues to search for the rest of the party, eventually finding that all of them have been slain in the same way. Unsure of what has happened, he goes to find Charmander, hoping that at least he may have been spared, but is horrified only to discover a pile of powder and ashes in the shape of the young dragon. While Saren is investigating, he gets the feeling of being watched. Looking up above, he finds the faces of dead men staring back at him. They stare at him as in a focused but not necessarily hostile way, but is still enough for him to feel uncomfortable. Choosing to defend himself, he casts spirit guardians around where he stands, but the guardians that appear seem different and strange. Before he wakes for real, he hears a voice say, "You are next in line." Finally, Inara awakes, slightly confused to discover she is on horseback. Looking around her, she finds her allies traveling with her as well, and after a couple of minutes, realizes they are headed to the monastery she grew up in. Everything seems to be fine and not alarming as they travel. However, as they grow closer, it seems to be oddly empty and quiet. Entering the space, Inara is horrified to find a pile of bodies, which upon closer inspection are the bodies of all those she knew, dead. At the top of the heap sits Marcus, a smug look upon his face as he looks down at her. He addresses her, telling her that this ending is all because of her. Not sure how to answer, and feeling immense pain at the situation, Inara is once again surprised as Saren steps out from behind Marcus. The two men suddenly seem to turn on her, Marcus raising his weapon and Saren sending a spell in Inara's direction, just as she wakes up, horrified, back in the tavern. Moments after the party awakes, all dealing with the emotions that are now flooding through them because of the dreams, loud knocking is heard on all of their doors. A few seconds later, Malvis's voice is heard yelling at them, all to wake up and come downstairs. Realizing that they are not going to stop him from insisting, Saren, Chop, and Inara fully get up and head back down to the tavern floor. Once there, they find Mitram sitting at one of the tables, looking uncomfortable and distracted. The rest of the party sits down, asking Mitram where he had been and what is so urgent. With a sigh, Mitram tells them that he and Stephanie went to scout the rumor of the large army. He explains that they did not find the army, and that it was as they thought, and is the people from a sky. However, the forces appear to have grown and become much more organized. Stephanie urged them to get a closer look, and what they found was that each race or division seemed to have a leader. For a minute, Mitram looks unsure, but then tells them that while they are watching, they saw a group of people moving towards the army, with faces they recognized. It turns out Princess Alexa, accompanied by Bill, is there, and approaches a man in heavy armor, who seems to be one of their leaders. The man asks if she is still hesitant about their offer, and she tells him no, that she is tired of losing. Alexa says she will take the deal, and the man answers that they will do as she asks. Mitram explains that they did not see any of the southern forces, before his attention was once more pulled to the princess. Bill leans in to ask if she is sure she wants to go through with it, and she answers that she is. Suddenly the armored man makes a command and arrows are let loose, landing straight into Bill. As he falls to the ground, Alexa turns to the man and tells him to find the others Bill had been with and kill them. For it was because of them that her father and mother are dead. Realizing that the situation has now become hostile, Mitram turned to Stephanie to urge her to retreat, but found that she was no longer there. Making his way back to the tent they had camped in haste, he found it completely empty. The only things remaining were his own belongings he did not have on him, and a small note. Panic rising, he read it, learning that Stephanie has betrayed him and has taken Charmander to the princess, believing she has a better use for the dragon. As Mitchum finishes his tale, the party reacts in different ways, though the common feeling being one of frustration. Malva seems to be the most vocal, first giving him a hard time about being betrayed by someone he was sleeping with, before voicing his disappointment that they always seem to be fighting something, and that he is tired of it. They're obviously outnumbered and need allies, a sentiment the rest of the party seems to share. After a brief agreement, Malvus concludes that it must be Saren's fault, because ever since he came along, things have seemed to go from bad to worse. Saren fights back, saying that he should look at his own actions, for ever since he severed the pact with Ula, he has been out of control. The two men turn to the rest of the party, but due in part to the dreams they had had the night before, they're not very supportive of the cleric. Instead of trying to hash out anything, or find a solution to the present problem, the party splits, with Saren angrily going to take a walk, and Inara going to the bar for a drink, leaving Chop to muse beside a quiet Mitram. Malvus follows Inara, offering to pay for the drink, and they end up talking about he has felt mostly out of place with the party, but she has always been there for him through everything. He seems appreciative of all of this, and even thanks her for all of it. Outside, Saren passes some unsavory-looking men as he continues to walk to try and clear his head. The men try to get his attention, but he is rather focused on other things and ignores their jeers. Seeming to anger the men, they attack him, but Saren seems to be ready for them, casting spirit guardians and taking down the men quite easily. Just as he's about to move on, however, one of the men's bodies arches back, his eyes going white, before addressing Saren, saying he has been chosen to be found and slain, and that he is only one of his objects. Just as the man's body is released from whatever force had claimed it, Saren hears the screams of a woman nearby, yelling about how he killed these men and demanding the guard. Knowing that it was only self-defense, Saren sits down. A few moments later, guards come, questioning what happened. He tells them the story, and they end up believing him, just advising him to be reasonable in future situations and not go too far. Suddenly, he starts to hear giggling and turns to find the woman who had been screaming, her giggles turning to insane laughter as flames emerge from her hands. Back inside the tavern, Inara and Malvus are still talking and drinking. Hesitantly, Inara asks if he believes she is weak and unable to accomplish what she was sent to, like she has kept being told. Malvus disagrees, saying that he thinks that she is strong, and most of all, is a good friend. Putting his hand on hers, he tells her that there is something he has wanted to tell her, or ask her, just as their attention is pulled to screams and commotion from outside. Making eye contact with Mitram and Chop, the party rushes out to figure out just what is happening. In the street, Saren is facing off with the strange woman. She tells him she will keep giving him more and more until she can claim him as her prize. With that, she casts holy fire at him, to which he responds with blindness. The rest of the party arrives to the commotion, most of them jumping in to help Saren for various reasons. The woman seems strong, but Inara is able to stun her, and with Saren using radiant damage, they are able to subdue her. Just before she is killed, she warns Saren to keep his enemies close, and warns him that something is out to get him. More guards appear, noticing the body of the woman and asking what happened. The party half-heartedly tells the story, which seems to annoy Malvus, urges Saren to just tell the truth. Seeming more upset than he should, he approaches Mitram, who had been standing back from the growing crowd, trying to convince him to speak up so they can use the opportunity to get rid of Saren. Mitram fights back, saying he is not quite sure, but that he is being too much for the group. Malvus argues that Inara trusts him, to which Mitram agrees, but tells him that she is also not stupid. Malvus tells him he knows that. She may not be stupid, but she is desperate. Having gotten a sufficient explanation, the guards depart, leaving the party to themselves in the street. Saren asks what all of that was about, since it was very clearly not something he had started. The party is somewhat dodgy, but eventually admit that they do not trust him. Feeling as if this is the final straw, Saren marches away angrily towards the Temple of Tempest he had come from. Mitram follows, hoping to ease the situation, as Inara sits down on the side of the street nearby. Malvis comes to sit next to her, emotionally saying that he feels bad, that he cannot help but feel like all he is doing is causing bad things to happen since he felt magic return. He knows that Ula is gone, but he still seems to feel the same emotions he had when she was with him. Inara answers that she does not think he is bad, that he is generally just trying to help things, and that it is hard, but he is truthfully a good person. To this, Malvis seems to perk up, but also seems a little awkward. Eventually he tells her that he loves her, and that he thinks they should just run away from the others and complete the mission that she was charged with. He assures her that he is not expecting to hear anything from her, but hopes she will come with him. Inara appears to be shocked at the confession, but leans forward, hugging him before agreeing with the plan. Meanwhile, Mitram has caught up with Saren inside the Temple to Tempest. He approaches trying to mend their relationship, but Saren does not seem like he wants anything to do with him. Just as Mitram is deciding to leave, he looks up and tells him to let Malvis know that the next time he sees him, he will kill him. Taking the warning, Mitram heads back to the rest of the party. He finds only Chop sitting near where the earlier fight had been, looking upset. She tells him that she is angry that her family is enslaved and asks what they are to do about it. Mitram agrees that it is wrong, mentioning that his brother is also taken as well. However, he tells her that he does not think that he can help her, because the most important thing right now is to find and get Charmander back. Furious at the selfishness of the party, Chop walks off, alone. As the story closes, the party is split in almost unmendable ways. Chop heading to find a way to save her village, Saren angrily putting his things away inside the temple vowing revenge, Mitram off to find Charmander, and Inara headed off out of the city, hand in hand with Malvis. Okay, oh boy, this was one of... I don't know if it's one of my favorite episodes, but it was a lot of confusion. Two of our members were actually absent for this whole episode and didn't actually play, so the characters of Malvis and Mitram were actually gone for this session, and they were played by our DM. And so we didn't think anything of it at the time, but as we'll come to find out later on, that might not be the case of what exactly is happening. So it was interesting because we all kind of started fighting within each other, and it led us to this big confrontation that I know it doesn't show as much in here, but it was very heated. It was a lot, and it was about to be super, super confusing. But it was fun still. Our group is really good at, having that conflict, but not letting it be something that takes us out of the game either. We understand that we can all fight with each other, and that's okay in game because we're all really good friends. So yeah, this was a important and also, interesting episode that we went through. However, it also wasn't done. There was more to this. So, as we get back into that, the scene changes suddenly as Mitram and Stephanie are making their way back to the city of Wolfwater. Just as they descend over a hill, they find Malvis approaching. He tells them he is not sure why he is out here, but that when he went to make sure things were once again safe, he was hit over the head, knocking him unconscious. He woke up outside the city before finding them. Not sure what to make of the situation, Malvis joins the other two, asking how their investigation went, but his question is never answered, as their attention is pulled to the city by Stephanie, asking what has happened here.